Tanzania is preparing to host one of the African continent's biggest festivals. The event showcases Africa's finest arts and culture, including fashion and music. But other key discussions will centre around trade and investments. For more on this, I'm now joined by Festival Director Lehlohonolo Peega. Lehlohonolo, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for speaking to us. Now, you're out in Tanzania preparing for this festival, which kicks off in a few days' time. Talk to us firstly about the inspiration for Festac.
Okay, now thank you, Hugo, and thank you for all the listeners and viewers that are tuning in to listen to the work that we do here. So basically, Festac is a 57-year-old festival that started off in 1966 in Dakar, Senegal, under the guidance and the tutelage of the then President Leopold Senghor. And the entire idea behind Festac was when the wave of independence was blowing through the continent, the forefathers and foremothers that gave us this Africa that we know today thought how best to encapsulate and capture this moment at this point in time. And they decided on Festac, which stands for Festival of Arts and Culture. And this moment then became a pivotal moment to encapsulate that moment and also bring together Africans continentally and diaspora to come and celebrate African lives, modes of being, ways of life. So Festac, yes, it's a 57-year-old festival. The second iteration, which still remains the biggest iteration of Festac, happened in 1977 in Lagos. Because of how big that was, then it went through a period of abeyance for 45 years. And last year, a small group of people brought it back in the beautiful islands of Zanzibar, and this year is in the mainland in Tanzania. And so that's the entire idea, to say how do we bring Africans together to unite socially, politically, and economically, as you see the new component into the festival that we have added, which is trade.
Now, the one thing I particularly like about this is you talk about experience Africa in just 7 days. Now, this suggests that over the next 7 days, that entire time is going to be packed. But it will be packed with culture, it will be packed with tradition and all sorts. Explain to us some of the activities and some of the countries that are participating over the next 7 days of the event.
I mean, first of all, you just have to understand how ambitious that is to say experience Africa in just 7 days. You know, Africa is so vast. It's so diverse. It's so dynamic. So, yeah, we have just put it in ourselves to say experience Africa in 7 days, you know, and we're just going to give you that. We're going to give you a hint of the different regions of Africa, the different possibilities. For instance, we have an entire Maasai cultural experience, you know, that is embedded into the festival in itself. And as you know, we're in Maasai land. That's what you're going to get. You know, you're going to get Africa, which is diasporic. There's going to be a corner that's a Jamaican experience, you know. There's going to be the Chitewas, you know. So it's just a jam-packed idea. Also not to just limit Africa to just some cultural norms and cultural ways of being. Africa equally in 2023 is Africa of trade, is Africa of social cohesion, is Africa of politics. That's why you see the vastness of the program and how big it is. It's just to encapsulate and say how do we envisage different aspects of this Africa? How do we bring them together? How do we, for instance, you know, exploit the African Free Continental Trade Agreement? How do we bring these Africans together? And so you get the sense, it's Africa in its totality. And you can imagine trying to do that in 7 days, how ambitious that is.
It's extremely ambitious, but obviously we're keen to know, you know, some of the groups that are likely to be performing, some of the cultural elements that will be available in the festival. Any notable names?
Definitely. So I'll even throw in some speakers that, you know, will just ring a bell to a number of people. So our major headline act is Lehlohonolo. Lehlohonolo is it's almost 50 years in age. The band is the biggest band in East Africa. The band actually started in Arusha when it was started off back in the 70s or so, and then they transitioned to Nairobi. They are currently now operating full on in Nairobi. So the entire idea is, they're homecoming. We have Lorais, who's easily the biggest sort of hip-hop musician in Tanzania currently. We have some guys coming in from South Africa, Makafula Vilagazi, Pupo Legabiko. In terms of speakers, we have PLO, Professor Lumumba, coming in. As the keynote address, we have Marcus Garvey's son, Dr. Julius Garvey, pulling through. So it's just vast. You have Jampara, who's probably the leading reggae artist currently, coming from Amsterdam. We have Nile Duarte from Kenya. We have the Burundi National from Burundi, of course. So the program is just vast. You're just coming to do exactly that, experience Africa in 7 days. So, yeah, it's just vast in terms of names.
Lehlohonolo, I think the one thing that's also unique to this is that when you normally have a cultural festival, sport is not on the agenda. But I've seen on the program that there are a number of sporting activities. Talk us through those.
Yeah, no. And I mean, most people, we never get to think about that very carefully and digest it. But sports has very much to do with culture, travel, and tourism. For instance, I'll explain. If Sundowns, let's start even locally. If Mamelodi Sundowns plays against Marumo Gallants, in Royal Bafokeng Stadium, then the supporters of Sundowns are going to travel with Sundowns to Royal Bafokeng. When they get there, that's tourism. They buy this, they buy that. There's also a sporting culture that's in it, whether it's the T-shirts, it's the songs that come through with it. So how do we use the idea of sports as a tourism tool, as a cultural tool, to also encourage trade, to also showcase the various travel destinations that are across the continent? How do we get Orlando Pirates playing against Al Ahly in Egypt, and use that moment as a tourism expedition, because you find followers or supporters of Orlando Pirates that will travel to Egypt to watch Orlando Pirates play against Al Ahly. And when they are there, they're interested in various travel sites. When they're there, they book hotels. So that's already sports tourism, How do we leverage this idea of sports tourism as a culture, as an economic benefit, as a social cohesion, to also bring people together culturally, using sports, economically and socially so.
Well, Lehlohonolo, that's we're going to have to end it there. We've run short of time, but certainly look forward to spending some time with you over the week of the festival starting on Sunday.